everyone. It's an absolute pleasure to welcome you all to the 2023 edition of Scotland's Can Do Innovation Summit. And a special shout out to the additional 200 people joining us online. Our virtual delegates join us from near and far, indeed from Wishaw to Washington, DC. Firstly, some essential housekeeping before I give you a flavour of who we are and what's to come. And so please, our online delegates, bear with us. So we will not be testing the fire alarm today. So if you hear the fire alarm, it's a real fire. Or at least a real alarm. So event hosts and fire marshals will direct you to the nearest fire exits. The car parking, if you have parked in the car park today, is complimentary. So get your car parking ticket scanned by one of our event hosts, and that will allow you to exit the car park free of charge. The Wi-Fi is CDIS23 and there is no password required, and the hashtag today is hashtag CDIS23. So I am Susie Mitchell. I'm the Programme Director for Glasgow City of Science and Innovation. Today's summit has been brought to you by Jacuzzi, as we like to call it, in partnership with Scottish Enterprise, Glasgow City Council and Innovate UK. And we are extremely grateful for our partners' support. We are an innovation partnership based here in Glasgow Science Centre, bringing together business, government, and higher and further education institutions. We exist to grow regional innovation by being a connector of actors, a curator and promoter of our innovation narrative, and a strategic influencer and advisor. Our ultimate mission, to work in partnership to crowd in more regional investment and unlock more business innovation as a force for social and economic progress. The summit now represents a national focal point and celebration of innovation in business in Scotland. Today, you will not only hear from SMEs driving forward Scotland's innovation economy and creating the breakthrough solutions of tomorrow. There will be exclusive announcements from the leaders of our partner organisations, key advancements that will aim to further strengthen our innovation support ecosystem and, in turn, our innovation offer to business. We have a gift for innovation. It's in our DNA, but it has never been more important for small businesses to become more agile and creative, more resilient to disruption, and more open to adopting tech to survive and thrive in a future where tech is a key economic driver. But change is the only certainty in tech, and critically, we need to educate, upskill, reskill to meet market demands, whilst creating safe spaces in business to experiment and learn. And businesses also need the right support at the right time to adopt tech with success. And of course, global challenges and social movements like Black Lives Matter have somewhat forced a social reset in business. More than anything, a company that understands its why and which has a clear purpose will bridge in unprecedented ways the divide between shareholders and stakeholders in the communities they serve and leave a lasting positive legacy on their identity. It's my belief that purpose must be continually tested, discussed, improved, and ultimately lived. Our local and international thought leaders today, as well as our speakers and panelists from 50 inspirational multi-sector SMEs, will explore the importance of purpose-driven missions, the emerging tech you need to know about, weighing up the cost benefits of tech adoption, why innovation culture matters, and the ethics, diversity, and sustainability considerations of new technologies, and much, much more in between. Beyond our industry-led panel sessions, we also have a range of practical sessions. We're delighted that one of Europe's most innovative law firms, Shoesmiths, our summit legal partner for 2023, is hosting our all-new legal lounge, part of our sofa sessions in the Clyde Suite. The legal lounge will have a number of Shoesmiths experts providing legal advice on a range of topics from raising capital to real estate. Interface and our sponsor TechScaler, delivered by Codebase, will also be part of those sofa sessions. The TechScaler host will provide essential advice for delegates looking for startup support. And now I have an unfortunate but important update. Due to unforeseen circumstances, the Code Your Future sofa session has had to be cancelled by the Code Your Future team. and we should have sent an email to all of those who had signed up to that SOFA session, but you can engage with Code Your Future, Shoosmith's Codebase and Interface in the exhibition. If you haven't booked into these tailored SOFA sessions over our break times, please approach any of the session hosts present in the Clyde Suite throughout the day, out with these times for an informal chat. They would love to talk to you. We also have masterclasses on the practicalities of immersive tech adoption, as well as 2 other masterclasses curated by our partners Innovate UK and Scottish Enterprise, one focusing on support to grow your business through both agencies, and another workshop by Innovate UK on advice and tips on how to best frame your competitive funding application. If you haven't booked into these and you would like to attend, please go along, and it's at the host discretion to accept walk-ups. You should be able to get in. All masterclasses are held in the tower-based spaces. As well as our dedicated business support panel session with Innovate UK, the City Council of Glasgow, Scottish Enterprise and TechScaler, our Support Village exhibition has been curated to help you connect with and navigate the business and innovation support ecosystem. So please take time to explore that. And just ahead of our drinks reception, it feels like a long time away, doesn't it? We will close the 2023 summit with an interactive and immersive experience you will never forget. A showcase of OPM's award-winning AI-enabled fashion collection. Here in the IMAX, as a fitting finale to the end of today's event, which will have a lot of focus on AI, metaverse, and Web3 technologies. Her work is just incredible. When I was looking for speakers for this event, I was scrolling on LinkedIn and something came up, and actually Yemi, who will be interviewing her, liked one of her posts, and I was utterly engaged in this image. Her work is hyper-real, it's cutting edge, it's groundbreaking, it's creative, and it's experimental and experiential. And I cannot wait to see Opie's exquisite work showcased on this incredible screen behind me. So please stay for the duration of the event that really isn't to be missed. So we're so grateful for all of our contributors who have collectively helped to create such a rich and varied programme today. Thanks to our core partners for supporting Scottish innovation through this event programme, Scottish Enterprise, Glasgow City Council and Innovate UK, as well as our sponsors, Shoosmiths, Peace Future and TechScaler. Thanks to all our speakers, chairs, SOFA session and masterclass hosts and our exhibitors. And thank you for being part of Can Do Innovation Summit 2023. We hugely appreciate your participation and we hope that you leave us informed, energized and inspired to do something different, something risky, something new. And in the words of Maya Angelou, the most important single thing beyond discipline and creativity is daring to dare. And now I'll invite the Chair of Glasgow City of Science and Innovation and the CEO of the Glasgow Chamber of Commerce, Stuart Patrick, to come to the stage.
Good morning, everyone, and I will repeat on behalf of the team at Glasgow City of Science and Innovation a welcome to this Can Do Innovation Summit here at the Glasgow Science Centre. And let's not forget how essential to our task in building an innovation ecosystem is the Science Centre, stoking enthusiasm for science and technology and showing the next generations what a life in science could mean for them. Your host today is, as Susie said, Glasgow City of Science and Innovation, which I am indeed deeply privileged to chair. Glasgow City of Science and Innovation, GCOSI, as Susie said, was the invention of former Chief Medical Officer for both Scotland and subsequently England, Sir Ken Calman. Sir Ken wanted Glasgow much more widely recognised for the quality and range of the science research emerging from its educational institutions and for the commercial partnerships being achieved with the private sector. He felt that Glasgow's name was not featuring enough in policy and funding decisions. So the GCOSI partnership brings together universities, colleges, the Chamber of Commerce, national agencies, and Glasgow City Council to tell the story of our science research capabilities and to show how Glasgow is a natural home for research funding, private investment, and the implementation of government innovation policy. Susie here, Dr. Laura Bell, and their very tiny team have been disproportionately successful in putting science and technology at the heart of the Glasgow business narrative. The city's strategic thinking, while also delivering a busy schedule of profile-raising initiatives, including this Can Do Innovation Summit. Events like this summit perform a vital role in the building of our innovation ecosystem. Not only do they provide that profile showing the scale and nature of the innovation bubbling up in a community, in this case for Glasgow or for Scotland more widely, they also spread awareness of the support services available for our innovators in academia, in policy, and crucially, among our businesses, both large and small. They help nurture the connections between innovators and offer an opportunity to experience great practice, whether that be here in our own ecosystem or in similar systems all around the world. I think you're going to find all of those features are on display today. And in Glasgow, the objectives Sir Ken had for Jacuzzi are, I would suggest, well on the way to being achieved. Glasgow's been on something of a roll lately. First came the decision in 2022 by the UK government to make Glasgow one of the 3 innovation accelerator partnerships alongside Greater Manchester and West Midlands. I'll leave it to this morning's session to explain the significance of the partnership, but I was very glad to be involved in the process of selecting the 11 research commercialisation projects to receive a share of the funding. I can say with enthusiasm that it was a heartening experience, both because of the range and depth of the proposals, and we could easily do a second round, and because of the outstanding professionalism shown by the Glasgow City Region and Glasgow City Council staff in managing a very complex process to a very tight timescale. The teams knew how to make the most of the local and regional partnerships that we've invested in so heavily over the past couple of decades, and that bodes well for the next opportunity. For only in June this year, the UK government and Scottish government announced that Glasgow would have an investment zone, a further boost to at least one of the emerging clusters, involving an additional £80 million over 5 years in grant and or tax incentives. And also in June came the Scottish Government's innovation strategy, which included a very strong emphasis on science and technology cluster development, and specifically highlighted the role of our innovation districts. I cannot emphasize enough the vital importance of the innovation districts as catalysts for economic growth and resilience. We have a powerful mix in Glasgow of 3 innovation districts, and I know they'll come up at various points during the summit. The University of Strathclyde's Glasgow City Innovation District, based in Glasgow City Centre around the university's campus, with a hugely successful Technology Innovation Centre at its heart. The very different and distinctive Advanced Manufacturing Innovation District alongside Glasgow Airport, again led by Strathclyde University, and drawing upon the National Manufacturing Institute for Scotland and the Advanced Forming Research Centre. And then the University of Glasgow's own Riverside Innovation District, which will capitalise on the Gilmer Hill campus expansion and the research role of the Queen Elizabeth University Hospital in Govan. Over the first 20 years of this century, Glasgow used the idea of an international financial services district to drive our economic recovery, achieving its objectives of attracting 20,000 new jobs and 2 million square feet of property on the Broomielaw. Now we have 3 innovation districts that can act as the next catalysts for economic growth, nurturing a new generation of science and technology-rich industries from photonics, health and life sciences, advanced manufacturing, and several more. And so, at the same time, diversifying the industries from which we in this city will earn our future living. And very soon, it's on the agenda for this afternoon, we will be taking further steps as a city-region partnership, which could be the key to attracting yet more investment, both from national governments and from business into those industries. The Jacuzzi team, on behalf of the City-Region Partnership, ran a set of 4 workshops in the early stages of preparing those next steps. Those workshops brought together 120 leaders exploring what Glasgow should do to turbocharge its innovation ecosystem. Several messages rang out which will be addressed. Glasgow doesn't tell its economic story well enough. We need to do more to build a connected and engaged tech community. Events like this are indeed essential. That access to finance is an enduring issue, and so on. The city region is listening to those messages, but it's also worth noting how easy it was to find 120 leaders in our innovation ecosystem already, and there were many more who just couldn't make the dates work. From the Chamber's perspective, I hope the fresh attention we're giving to innovation will help us build an ecosystem that adds a very different flavour to our city region. Yes, we must continue to attract inward investment as we did with the IFSD, but even more important will be the building of a fresh, new and ambitious community of homegrown companies. And ideally, we will be playing to the distinctiveness of Glasgow's research strengths, often looking for ideas that reach across sectors, whether that be in engineering, financial services, creative industries, or health and life sciences. There's something very interesting in Glasgow's potential to build a supercluster built on a platform of enabling technologies where several disciplines work together. Both the University of Strathclyde's Technology Innovation Centre and the University of Glasgow's Advanced Research Centre are great examples of how that is being done in this city. And all this work is definitely worthwhile. A quick look at some official statistics from the Scottish Government for the Glasgow City region tell an increasingly positive story. The number of jobs in Glasgow City region has grown by 12% since 2010, matched almost exactly by the growth in the Edinburgh City region. Both are growing faster than the Scottish average. At over 890,000, Glasgow's jobs count is the highest it's been for well over 30 years. The number of VAT-registered businesses in Glasgow is up since 2010 from 42,000 to 52,000, an increase of 25%, easily beating the growth rates for Scotland. The stock of high-growth businesses in Glasgow City region is up from 490 to 610, and again has been rising faster than, in this case, both Scotland and Edinburgh City region. I have no doubt that our innovation ecosystem is a vital element of that success, and I hope today you're going to see some of the reasons why. Let me finish, therefore, simply by saying thank you for coming along today. Just by getting involved, you are yourselves building the ecosystem. In fact, far better to say that you are the innovation ecosystem, and to thank you for the difference that you already are making to our city and to our country. Thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks, Stuart. So without further ado, it is my absolute pleasure to introduce you to our first keynote, Edafe Onerhime. Edafe is a data specialist and global financial services lead who has recently been named Top 20 Most Influential Women in Data 2023. Edafe, welcome.
Good morning. It's nice to, well, almost see you. The lights are blinding from this side of the stage, but I'm glad that you're all here, and hopefully you're all now awake. You've had some coffee, and we'll get started on the session today. I'll warn you, it's not very technical. I think that for the audience here, the important thing is leadership, so we'll get started. Can I get my slides up? Thank you. Excellent. Thank you very much. And let's get started. So, my vision of the future is one, ignore this cane, is one of technology optimism, guarded by ethical guardrails. In the TV series, and it won't surprise you to know that as a technologist, I'm also a bit of a geek. In the TV series Star Trek, the computer was there to support humans, to make them achieve their missions faster, stronger, smarter, but not to replace them. And that's the future that I choose to believe in. What it did do to give a misquote to H.P. Lunn, the father of business intelligence, was to give the officers on the ship the right insight to the right people at the right time so that they could achieve their mission. This is thriving in the science fiction future, and our ship is the country of Scotland. So welcome to the future. My name is Edafe Onerhime, and I'll be your guide. As Susie said, I have 25 years of experience in industry, mostly wrangling cats. You'll be unsurprised to hear the technology is glamorous, but the doing of the technology, unfortunately, is not so much. And it will be very familiar to anyone who is a leader here today. So, what am I going to talk with you today about? What we're going to cover? Well, we're going to go on a bit of a journey. But before I start, I should say that although I'm here on the stage and I do work for a global financial services firm, I'm not representing them today. These are my own views, and this is taken from my experience over time. So, first I'd like to thank Cozy, I'm going to get very used to that acronym now, for inviting me to speak today. Artificial intelligence, or AI, and other emerging technologies are changing the way that we work as humans today. But it's not just changing the way we work, it's also changing the ecosystem that we operate in. And that ecosystem affects you, leaders in small and medium enterprises across Scotland. So this is an opportunity for you to look across your organizations, for you to look across strategy, operations, technology, and people with a new lens in mind, a new perspective, and to ask yourself, how can I make this better? Together, we'll explore how Scotland can thrive in the face of emerging technologies. I'll also share my responsible and pragmatic framework for successfully collaborating together with people in this room and with people within your sector around data and technology. I mentioned that I'm a technology optimist. I'm also a human optimist. I believe that we can and must do better in order to reap the rewards of emerging technology. We must do better if we want a future on this planet. So the future I choose to believe in is one of humans plus technology. I've already mentioned the Star Trek future. It's one where humans are supported by technology to live and to work well together. In this keynote, I'll share 3 things I want you to take away today. Emerging technology is viable right now. I know everyone has seen in the papers the emergence of generative AI. I'll talk about a few other things as well in that vein. But they're all tools, and like any other tool that you have, whether it's a forklift or a ChatGPT, it's a tool in your toolkit, something that you need to understand how to leverage. Collaboration is key, so I was very pleased to hear that there's a lot of collaboration already happening in Scotland. I did a little bit of research, by which I meant Googling things, and then I talked to a few people, and I was pleased to see that we do have that collaboration, and that means that what we do together, the projects, the technologies we develop, the businesses we develop, are greater than the sum of their parts. And this bodes well for the implementation of technology like AI. Scotland is built for collaboration. We're a small country that excels when we work together, linking academia, business, government, and not-for-profit agencies. So let's take a look at how emerging technology is changing our world today in small ways and in big. In his latest book, or rather in their latest book, Davenport and Miller wrote about 29 use cases for AI. This is the kind of practical and pragmatic writing that I love, because people talk about potential, But if you've ever heard the story of the little red hen, you'll know that it's the eating in which you'll find a lot of people participating, not necessarily the planting of the corn, the harvesting, the grinding, and the baking of the bread. So these 29 use cases are very handy for you to understand the best way to apply AI-enabled systems, which is what I'm going to refer to them as. So their takeaway is that AI is augmenting the work that humans do, but not yet fully automating it. Flippy, a burger flipping robot, which I love the name of it, was created to actually flip burgers. But what they found was that because the grill is not heated the same way throughout, they still needed human cooks to come in and direct Flippy on the best spots on the grill to put the burgers. But what they did find that Flippy is excellent for is pulling out the fries once they're done. This means that the cooks can leave the cooking of the fries to Flippy and focus on the meal prep. So that's taking something away from them that they would have maybe had a buzzer in the past and they'd have had to check it and shake it a bit and then see if it was cooked. Now they can leave all that to Flippy to sort out. But Flippy can't take over the cooking of the burgers and the assembling of the burgers and all of that kind of stuff that goes into the customer satisfaction. For a less flippant take, autonomous vehicles, I'm sure you've read about the trials going on in San Francisco especially, but they work really well in dry, well-structured, rigid environments like Las Vegas and San Francisco. But less so in places like Scotland, surprisingly, mainly because of our variable weather, really every weather in one day. The roads built by the Romans and twisty, lovely kind of winding tracks that are brilliant for human drivers, but a bit of a nightmare for AI. Not to mention what happens when you have wandering sheep stuck on the road. I actually had a picture of a Tesla, stuck on a road because there was a sheep in front of it. But I wasn't sure if I was allowed to put that on the screen. But if you have a look, it's really interesting. So things that wouldn't faze a human tend to faze AI because AI is successful in a number of very, for us, limited ways. But even though those ways are limited because they're predictable, they do take something off your plate, which is useful because that means that you can then spend your time doing something else. We'll shortly look at some of the broad ways you can successfully implement AI in your organization. But first, I want to just mention bias because all of this lovely technology is coming out. But there is still a lot of bias. And I'm not just talking about the fact that AI-enabled hand dryers couldn't recognize darker skin tones. There is much more serious bias happening in AI. So the responsible AI movement of which I'm a part seeks to reduce bias that's embedded into our data and the data that's used to build our AI. And now the reason we have bias in our data is because there's bias in our systems. I usually tell the story of how some countries, for example, I'm from Nigeria, so I'm from a colonized country, didn't have surnames until they were colonized by the British, and then suddenly they had to have surnames. At the time, they were like, well, they don't have no concepts of surnames. So if you go to certain countries like Vietnam, you'll have a lot of people with the same surnames. And the surnames don't have the meanings that they might have here because they didn't really evolve naturally. They were part of the colonization. The same thing with gender, the same thing with the census. So a lot of these biases are embedded into our existing systems and find them into the way we collect data. And then that data is used to train AI, and therefore AI reflects back to us the bias that we have. And the reason I mention it is if you're using AI, you need to be thinking about the ethical guardrails. And if you're not thinking about the ethical guardrails, well, governments around the world are thinking about those for you. The White House has released some thoughts about ethical guardrails, and I know that we in the UK will have soon an AI summit that will really consider how AI can be more responsible. And countries around the world are rushing to put in those guardrails. There's all manner of harms that can happen when you have AI. So it's useful for you as leaders to understand what those are and to guard against any of those consequences. AI is essentially a double-edged sword, but like many tools, those edges can be blunted where necessary. You may not be in the position of teachers who now have the dilemma of, did this student write this essay or was it generated by AI? And can this detection process that we have actually detect essays that were written by AI? Do we need to change the way that students learn? Because now they can ask ChatGPT to write a very well-considered essay, but are they actually learning anything in the process? And when it comes to imagery, you may have used one of the new generative AI tools like Midjourney or DALL-E to generate a many-fingered portrait. It's one of the unfortunate side effects. I think it doesn't really recognize that humans don't have 7 or 8 fingers. But you can ask questions. You can ask, and I pull these from social media in about 5 minutes. What if Braveheart took place in a galaxy far, far away? What if Lord of the Rings was Western? What if the Loch Ness Monster was really real? These are all prompts that people have generated and then very proudly shared their results on social media. And it means that our imaginations are running riot. But it also means that there's new possibilities that we've never encountered before that are suddenly becoming possible. We used to say that the value of ideas was in the execution, but now the value of ideas might be in the ideas, especially if we have AI doing the heavy lifting for us. On the dark side of that moon, deep fakes are becoming problematic. Scarlett Johansson, the actress, announced last week that her likeness has been used in an advert without her permission. President Obama and Tom Hanks are also figures that have featured quite heavily in fake videos, not just for entertainment, but also for advertising. You think those businesses would know better? Unfortunately, not. But then there are the decisions that affect us day in, day out, outside the realm of entertainment. For example, what if your race was linked to your ability to get credit and not to your actual financial track record? That is a major problem the financial institutions around the world are grappling with. So self-driving cars, food service robots, realistic avatars, personal AI-enabled assistants to write your essays for you, and personalized advertising while you're on the move. These are all things that we are seeing every day right now that are enabled by AI. We needn't wait for some point in the future for us to be living in the science fiction future. When I was a child in the 70s, if you told me I'd be walking around and a mobile advertising stand would scan my face and try and fit the right adverts to who it thinks I am, I would have thought you were talking about something that would happen in 50 or 100 years' time. But that is happening today. So the science fiction future is actually science fact today. Now let's talk about collaboration. Now that you've heard all about what you should watch out for when it comes to AI, let's talk about how you can enable AI and collaborate to make it work for you. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Now this is a proverb that's usually said to have been an African proverb. Apparently it's not, but it's still quite apt. While this saying is about people, it ties in nicely with technology, with people using technology. And the discoveries made by Davenport and Miller, who I mentioned earlier. All works are best done together. You will never be the smartest person in the room, unfortunately. That's a reality that I have embraced as a team lead. There will always be someone, and usually they're quite young, who has a great idea that you can implement. There might be someone outside of your industry that has a brilliant idea that works really well for your use cases. And when it comes to implementing AI, you can think of AI as a support for your normal conditions. That's where it works best. Humans need to stay involved in the direct execution, but AI can do a lot of the heavy lifting for you. Let's look at what Davenport and Miller talk about when they say there are 4 conditions where AI works really well. So pharmaceutical companies find that by using AI, they can slash their time to market for drugs because they can look at use cases for new drugs and cut that time from as long as a year to down to 2 weeks. Because it can look at all of the possibilities and combinations for these new drugs in a way that would take humans far too long to do. So that's one really good use of AI. In businesses, intelligent automation is reducing repetitive work. So your repetitive manual steps, your copying and pasting between programs, that can all be reduced. Or even taking notes in a meeting, you can now ask an AI assistant to join you in meetings to transcribe and summarize. Now, it's not perfect, but it does give you a head start. Cybersecurity is another place that AI is making quite a few inroads. It's looking at real-time threat analysis. It's able to look at millions of data points much faster than a person could, find a pattern that it's seen before, and alert a human operator to put an intervention in place. And that way, if you have an intrusion into your systems, you can detect that much faster than you could before. We're often told not to search Dr. Google, which gives you the scariest results. It's always something really awful when you search for your symptoms. But for experts in the field, for actual doctors, recommendation engines are actually very, very good. Because there's so many choices out there that even for a medical expert, keeping on top of all of the new things that are coming out is incredibly difficult. So while you may not be able to search for symptoms, having an expert recommendation to an expert is actually another good use of AI. So we have 4 really useful ways to use AI: to crunch a lot of data, to do grunt work, to give expert recommendations, and to detect patterns that we've seen before. So bearing those in mind, we'll go on to looking at the future of AI in Scotland. How might AI and emerging technologies work in Scotland as a country? We have a national animal that's a unicorn, which I found out the other day. I thought it was very sweet. But there's nothing mythical about our strategies for the future. It may surprise you to know, but hopefully not, that Scotland has an AI strategy. We also have a citizen panel, which I find very helpful for looking at AI and understanding the emerging context. Our strategy relies on 3 things: trustworthy, ethical, and inclusive AI. And that links very nicely with our commercial or business strategy, which includes collaboration and better use of data. All of these are designed to support Scotland's commerce and to support you as SMEs. No matter what industry you are in, I want to remind you that you're now in the business of data. Without data, there's very little you can do to get insight. You're using data every day, even if you don't realize it. What we're asking is for you to use data in a more pragmatic sense. We're asking for you to use data to fuel the sort of AI that will work for your businesses and across sectors. This is data about your people, your products, your competitors, the economy, the sector that you're in, that was previously locked in documents, and that is now no longer an issue. Documents are now data as far as technologists are concerned. And it's data that's being produced all the time by sensors, like the one I'm wearing today. So I have a sensor that monitors my health conditions and sends information over to my medical team. All of this data can be used to provide real-time insight and for strategic purposes, as well as to fuel new business cases. For example, Getty Images recently pioneered a new product that lets you generate bespoke images. So they essentially trained generative AI product with their own images, which they own the copyright to. And this is now a new source of income for them. So you can go on the new product, which has a very unfortunate name. It's called Generative AI by Getty Images. It doesn't roll off the tongue. But you can go there and instead of saying, searching for the perfect image to add to your blog post or to your brochures, you can tell it what you're looking for and it will actually create it for you. This is deep sector-specific data, and it will be very valuable for Scotland for its future. This is data that allows us to focus on our economy and on our strengths to position Scotland as a place beyond whiskey, the fringe, and Pizza Crunch, which I haven't tried yet, but I'm told it's very good after a night out. As a small country, collaboration means we end up with more than the sum of our parts. Enablers like this summit and groups like FinTech Scotland are instrumental to finding your collaborators. The future of Scotland is in effective collaboration and leveraging our data. I'm going to repeat that again. Leveraging our data is incredibly important. So if there's one thing you take away from here is that your data is way more valuable than you had ever thought. And it's not only valuable to you, it'll be valuable to people outside of your business, people trying to create the next sector-specific generative AI product. Now let's talk about you and what you can do to innovate. I'm going to introduce you next to some of my principles that you can take away with you. They're adaptable, they're not set in stone, you can make them work for you, and you can ensure that you can leverage them towards your collaboration, and that they work for the use cases in your business that you are looking into. But before I go into that, I just want to note, please do not use technology to solve people problems. When you have a problem with people, technology alone will not fix it. I can't tell you the number of times that I've been asked to create a dashboard to fix a problem where maybe employees were not engaged or people weren't turning up for their appointments. This doesn't work, unfortunately. When you have people-shaped problems, you need a people-shaped solution, and technology can help, but you must first start with people. So with bearing that in mind, the second point I want to make is everything takes much longer than you thought. That's the one thing I've learned as a technologist. There's always going to be things you didn't account for. There's always going to be what some scientists call black swans, things that you've never seen before and suddenly they appear. You'll always need to be learning, and that's why, as technologists, we encourage you to take a continuous improvement approach to your work. So with those two in mind, let's look at how you can prepare to accelerate. I have 3 things for you. I like 3s and 5s, so you find this a lot in my talks. Mindset, motto, and method. The mindset is that first you need to build trust because you're working with people. And if people don't trust you, they're not going to work with you. That's the bottom line. So please make time to get to know people as people. Get to understand what motivates them, what brings them to the room, and what makes them want to collaborate with you. Get to understand if they are people you want to collaborate with. That's an important first step in any project, not even a technology project is no different. Building that trust is an important first step. As you're building trust, and that's going to be something you do continuously, you need to understand that this is a continuous improvement. In fact, I encourage you to do something absolutely terrible as your first attempt, because it will stop you seeking perfection. As a perfectionist, this is very painful for me to say, but having that first step of, we're going to create something that's just kind of awful. There are two types of people, apparently. People who hate gaps and people who hate things that are incorrect. By creating something that is really awful first prototype, you'll attract both type of improvers. But if you think to yourself, this is a first go, and it doesn't matter if it's perfect first time, that's going to give you the opportunity to learn as you develop your project and to learn together. The other thing is to move quickly. There's nothing worse than waiting months and months for a project to come out and then finding it doesn't do what you want anyway. So involve the people who will be using your product as early as possible, build trust with them and with your collaborators, consider improving continuously, and make sure that you move quickly. Don't make people wait months to see a final product. Get a prototype out to them as soon as possible. Now, the next step, this is a bit trickier, is to find the right problem. We've talked about the 4 things that AI is very good at. So if you're doing something that includes AI, think about those 4 things and consider that your project should really include one of those. So if your project is not crunching a lot of data, trying to detect something that is a pattern, reducing some grunt work, or making a recommendation, those are 4 things that AI is very good at today. The landscape is changing rapidly, but I actually think if you pick one of those 4, you'll be more successful because you'll find more mature use cases and you'll find more mature technology to support you. Finding the right problem is also crucial, that you don't pick something that is critical because that'll put a lot of pressure on you that you won't be able to deliver. It won't give you time to learn if there's under pressure for you to deliver it as quickly as possible. Take some time to recruit the right collaborators because the right people are going to help you enormously. But keep your team between 5 and 7 people. If you have too many people, the communication lines become very, very complex. What you want to do is have a core group and then have people around you who you are experts in various things that you can reach out to. For those people outside of your core group, keep in touch with them. Make sure they understand what you're working towards constantly. And always work backwards. Most people will start a project going sourcing data, analyzing things, and that's great, but what happens is they forget why they're doing it. And then the end result diverges away from what they actually wanted. So I always work backwards. I say, what's the problem we're trying to solve? Sketch something out quickly, and then start to see if we can fix that problem. And if the problem changes, we change our process. And that is part of the continuous improvement cycle. And finally, what you all came here for. This is my framework I use in any engagement. So I got this framework, I started this framework when I was a consultant. And it's called the BUDDY system because everyone likes easy to remember acronym. And it kind of goes through this cycle. This is not a straight line, this is continuous, but it gives you now, next, and later. So right now when you get started in your work, you want to start building relationships. As I said, you want to build trust. You want to build relationships with your peers and partners. Your peers are the people that you're working with. Your partners are the people in the outer circle. You need to understand your environment, like what are the strategic needs, what's your budget constraints, what's the landscape you're operating within, what else is going on that is taking up people's time and energy. That's really important because what I find is people get fatigued by change. Then you come along and you say, yeah, I'm doing this great thing, and people are like, I have no capacity to talk to you, even if what you're doing is amazing. So do find out if there's another change program you can align with, that might make your life a lot easier. So this is what I always do the first time I take over a new team or start a new role. Then diagnose your situation. That's your next step. Understand the immediate needs. There's no point telling a patient that's on fire that you're going to fix his broken leg, right? You need to take the fire off first, get rid of that, then you can focus on the legs. So look at the immediate needs. What are the short-term requirements that you are going to need and the longer-term requirements? But bear in mind that whenever you create a solution, you're taking on a bit of debt. Everything you do creates debt because you have to maintain it. So when you create this debt, remember to set some time aside in the future to fix it. What people tend to do is create short-term tactical solutions and then leave them. and then 6 months down the line, nobody remembers who made it, why it's there, how it works, and you're too afraid to take it off in case it breaks something. So that's your diagnostics, is to say, okay, we're doing this short-term intervention, but we know that in the future we're going to have to put something more strategic in place. Then you need to deliver, because nobody likes to wait ages for anything. It's like going to a restaurant and waiting half an hour for your food, probably acceptable, but about the 45-minute mark, you're starting to feel a bit angsty. So the same thing with technology projects. You need to deliver something, even if it is rubbish and it's a spreadsheet or whatever it is, deliver it quickly so that people can start to tell you what's wrong with it. And if you deliver it early and often, you'll be able to also deliver within budget. That will help you a lot because you're not doing this big bang delivery system. Now, obviously, this doesn't work if you're building a bridge because you have to deliver the bridge all in one go, but we're not building a bridge, we're doing a technology project. Iterate as well, so go through it often. I usually use 1 or 2 week cycles to deliver things, and that forces people to focus on hopefully one thing at a time, rather than a million different things. I try and get people to focus on finishing one thing and then moving on to the next. So iterating frequently, you should also measure as you produce your changes and deliver them. Ask people what they think. That's an easy measurement. People go, I hate this, and you know it's bad. But when you say things like, I hate this, ask them, what is it you actually hate about it? You'll probably find that that gives you a lot more data, a lot more information you can use. You should also engage with people constantly. Engage with your peers, engage with people in your community. Don't tunnel into the work that you're doing. This will allow you to really be able to understand what's changing in the environment. You don't want to deliver something when people have moved on. Keeps you up to date. It also means that if you need clearance from people like legal or marketing or comms in my case, most of the time, you don't leave it till the end and they go, oh, no. It's going to take 6 weeks to give you an approval because they're already aware of what you're doing and they're aware of how they can help you. So that is my framework, and that is collaborating with others, the way, from my perspective, the way that Scotland works best. It's been a bit of a whistle-stop tour, and not an in-depth deep dive. It takes several days to go through this in an in-depth deep dive. I'm sure you would be bored by the end of it, although I would find it very exciting. On our journey, we've touched on data, we've touched on AI and the need to be responsible. We've talked about how emerging technology is here today and what it means for you and for Scotland. We've seen how you can do the thing, whatever the thing is, within your business and with your peers in your sector. I've also shared my framework, which I'm always happy to talk about. You can follow me on LinkedIn or talk to me on LinkedIn. Or old-fashioned, I actually meet people for coffee quite a bit. I'm based both in Glasgow and Edinburgh, so always happy to say hello and to talk to you about what you're doing. I'll leave you this quote from Bill S. Preston, Esquire, and Theodore Ted Logan. Please be excellent to one another, and thank you.
Excellence knows no bounds here in Scotland. It's limitless, much like infinity. We're gazing ahead, unwavering in our commitment to be exceptional. Where will this journey take us? Beyond the competition, surpassing all expectations, to lead and perform like no other. Our focus on innovation? Unlimited. Our dedication to incisive thinking? Boundless. Our pursuit of excellence? Infinite. And at our core, an endless commitment to what matters, for us and our clients. With technology rapidly transforming the legal sector, Shoesmith stands out for its long history of embracing and driving change. From our locations, including award-winning teams right here in Scotland, our full-service firm consistently wins industry recognition for supporting clients on their transformative deals and for our tech-focused approach. Our motivation has always been clear: equip lawyers to deliver smarter, faster, and more effective solutions. Shoesmith is perfectly placed to support innovative clients, from entrepreneurs looking to start up, scale up, and protect their IP, to investors looking to draw up laser-sharp contracts or make strategic exits. Shoesmith understands innovators and what drives them, because we are shaping the future too, with clients front and centre.
Edafe, thank you so much for your inspiring keynote. There was so much in there. I just picked out a couple of things. Science fiction is science fact now. Collaboration is key, and Scotland is built for it. Data is more valuable than you ever thought. You need to think about ethical guardrails, biases embedded into systems, and people problems need people solutions. Before I introduce the next keynote, I just want to, something practical. Sorry we started a bit late, I apologise for that. If you've signed up to an 11:15 sofa session, do you mind going? So that's in the Clyde Suite, just along the sort of main corridor. And also, if you have a panel session in the Tower Base at 11:45, if you could head along to that too, that would be great. But now it's my pleasure to introduce our next keynote, Elena Corchero, Director of Emerging Tech at Dow Jones Live and globally recognised tech futurist, who will be beamed on our screen through the medium of Zoom. Elena will be interviewed by Chris Moule, Head of Entrepreneurship and Innovation at Robert Gordon University. Elena is a multi-award-winning strategist, designer, hands-on technologist, and she is hands-on because when I spoke to her, just to prepare for today, she said she had to go because she was building an AR mirror. So she was actually building an augmented with her own hands. And a technologist and consultant who has worked with everyone from individual artists to Fortune 500 companies, including Hugo Boss and Unilever. So over to Chris and Elena.
Hello, everyone. My name is Chris Moule, and I'm the Head of Entrepreneurship and Innovation at Robert Gordon University. And I'm delighted to be here today with my good friend, Elena Corchero. Elena is known for her expertise that she's built up over 20 years of working at the intersections of science, art, and innovation, and now is working in emerging tech. She's an award-winning designer, entrepreneur, and having done her master's at Central St. Martin's in London. But also she's learning technology as a researcher at MIT Media Lab Europe. So welcome to Can Do Innovation, Elena. How are you?
Hi, Chris. How's it going? Thanks so much. It's great to be here. After wow, is it like over 13 years that we met in Scotland? And yeah, I'm the director of emerging tech now currently at Dow Jones Live.
Wow, it's great. It's great to see you again, actually, albeit virtually. I mean,
Virtually,
I should say to the audience, by way of background, that we spent some time back in, I think it's around 2008 to around about 2010 working together.
Yeah.
This lab in Forest, good times. You remember those times up in the Highlands?
Yes. Oh, yeah. Yes. And I got so much support for, the very, let's say, future thinking research that we were doing back then.
Yeah. And we've kind of followed similar kind of paths, I guess. You're both interested in emerging tech and entrepreneurship and commercialization. I've obviously gone to Robert Gordon University. You're now at Dow Jones working for the events team. And so you've been working at the forefront of future technology for a number of years. And so, we've got lots to talk about over the next half an hour. And certainly in Scotland, we're seeing a lot more females coming into STEM subjects, or there's a real aim to get more females into STEM subjects. So in your experience, how have you seen the role of women in technology evolve over the years? And, are you seeing kind of positive changes, do you think, that can occur to ensure equal opportunities for women in tech?
Yeah, I must say, it's, so many years have passed and we still feel that this is something that we need to talk about, which is amazing. Like I wish by now it was just not even a subject anymore. So we're still a minority, but strongly growing. And I think the main change that I believe works is actually that we do see publicly many more women of science in the media. And this is great because the reality is that one needs to see it in order to become it, to believe that you can be that person. So this definitely works, and it creates this ripple effect that I think is very, very,
Yeah,
very
no,
important.
I think we're beginning to see some of that ripple effect in Scotland as well. We're kind of seeing it, we're celebrating it. You know, we've got people like Dr. Maria Valero, who's a research scientist at the University of Edinburgh, and she's been pioneering in the development of technology for renewable energy, particularly in the area of sort of wave and tidal energy. So I think we're beginning to see that, which is great. Well, listen, I'm delighted to share this time with you today as part of this Can Do Innovation Summit. I've attended one, I think, before COVID a few years back, and you know, there's a real focus on technology innovation. I know you've been working very much highlighting future trends and considering how Scotland can position itself to capitalise on these future trends. And so let's start with a question. So we all know that, you know, about STEM. I think Scotland places a strong emphasis on STEM in education and workforce development to meet the demands of this rapidly evolving economy that we have here. But then we also hear about STEAM, and this is where you have the A introduced. And A, of course, stands for art. And I've heard you say that innovation is an art. And I just want you to unpack that for me in the audience a little bit. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, I really like that phrase. Innovation is an art, and I see it as an art for actually a wide variety of reasons. Let me see if I can explain it here. The first thing is, you know, when I get asked to advise on certain technology, it's usually the latest thing that has come out, the latest hype, and I think we need to first think on why that technology is meaningful. I call this the means and the meaning dilemma. It's why would we use our means or resources or human resources for things that are not meaningful?
Yeah.
So in that part, one needs to have the humanities in mind first when you approach a new technology. So that's one part of why innovation is an art. But also then you have to think of how arts are involved in product development.
Mm-hmm.
And definitely a lot of innovation might not have made it because they were not designed in a way that they were desirable. So definitely design and art are important in how you bring a product to market, a new innovation. And then lastly, art is the best way of communicating science and technology to the general public.
Right.
So for me, I just cannot see a STEM without the arts integrated. And actually in the past, usually we saw art and science combined together much more than we do today.
Yeah. And so you've been working at the intersection of art and technology. So how did you get into kind of both and start working at that intersection?
Yeah, it's a hard thing to think, like, you know, at what point your career goes one way or the other, or you find yourself mingling into both.
Yeah.
And a lot of people ask me this, and I have thought about it, like, it's true, how did I end up here? And I really think it comes from the way I grew up, and actually family upbringing is very important in how a child gets inspired.
Yeah, definitely.
To decide what they want to do when they grow up.
And this was in Spain, Elena, was it? This was
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm originally actually from the Canary Islands in Spain.
Islands,
True.
yeah.
And how you grew up, this is the opportunity for parents to inspire kids to do things that then become second nature. And to me, on one side, my father, when I was younger, he was an engineer. He later on became a lawyer, so that's a long story. But he was an agriculture engineer, and I learned a lot of science-related things from him. And then my mom is a fashion designer, and I grew up in a textile tailoring business. So
Wow.
I had that as a background just from birth, where I will be making dresses and handling fabrics from a very early age. And then with my dad, I will be making toys or anything I wanted to make. So it's not only that at an early age I got to breathe science and art, is that actually something that has been very important in my career is that I grew up in a hands-on way, thinking that you can make anything. I'm a maker at heart,
Yes.
let's say.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And that has been a strong differentiator in my career, because there is a lot of futurists that do very good theory of future technologies and analyzing markets and so on. But
Yeah.
I can actually build an idea
Yeah.
and show you firsthand how something might turn out, and test it, and so on. Yeah.
That's so relevant. That's so relevant. You know, demo or die sort of, culture. It's obviously came from MIT Media Lab, and you have that.
Exactly.
And so from them formative years, which sound fascinating, working with those, or being brought up in that environment where you have the engineer on one side and the textiles on the other side. And you can see how what it is that you're doing now has been shaped by those formative years. But coming back now to today, you're currently working on the event side at Dow Jones, and I believe you're just back from Tech Live conference in Laguna Beach in California, which sounds amazing.
It's
How was
amazing.
that? I saw the speaker lineup. That was some roll call.
Yeah, well, I have to say it's one of the most fascinating conferences I've ever seen in my career, in my life, before I joined Dow Jones, and obviously now that I am in it behind the scenes, is mind blowing. Everything that goes together, and the amount of people that comes together to create these perfect um, perfect events with so much detail. And yeah, the speaker lineup is fascinating. This year we had Arnold Schwarzenegger, because he actually just released a book we have here.
Hey, Arnold Schwarzenegger. Wow.
Yeah, I know. It's like, what? 7 tools for life, and it's fascinating. He obviously talks about longevity as well, and health, and he does look incredible actually on a
Yeah, I mean,
stage.
he must be in his mid-70s now, is he? A good
Yeah,
age, yeah.
yeah. Very impressive man. So
Wow.
few ideas here, but very useful ideas
Mhm.
to succeed in life. But then we also had, I mean, the variety is fascinating. We have John Legend, and he talked about his new social network that he has launched for food recommendations.
This is John
But
Legend, the musician,
John Legend, the
piano player.
musician. Yeah,
Yes,
you think
yeah,
like, oh, he's gonna go there to play. No, he's going there
yeah.
to discuss technology. It's fascinating
That
to
is fascinating.
see this. Obviously, he also talked about inclusion, right, and
Right.
everything that he is doing
Yes,
to support inclusion in the industry.
yes.
And then obviously AI. So we had very lucky to have Sam Altman that was speaking on OpenAI, and Mustafa Suleiman, who just released a
Oh,
book actually.
yeah, yeah.
You
Oh,
know
you
him?
have it there. You have it there. So
Yeah,
I'm
The
reading
Coming
that
Wave.
book. Your kid.
And I got it. You're
No, you
reading the
got it
book?
signed. Mine's, everybody should read this book. So I'm currently reading it,
Yeah,
Elena, The Coming Wave by Mustafa Suleiman.
yeah,
And in it, he kind of argues that we need to think about how new technologies, particularly AI, kind of empower us. And he makes this compelling case that, tremendous progress for humanity is possible with what is coming. But he also argues on the flip side that this wave is going to flood us with devastation if we don't work hard to direct it, but more importantly, contain it. He
yeah.
talks, the containment of this
Con-
artificial
yes,
intelligence. Yeah.
it's very well the way he puts it. I mean, every technology throughout our existence is been a tool, is generated by man, by human, and then it becomes a tool that we can use or misuse.
Yes.
That's just the
Yes.
history of human evolution from the start. This is no different. I think the main difference is probably the scale, is how quickly it can go global,
Yes.
whatever impact this tool has, versus any other tool you could imagine in the past. The pandemic, for example, is a great example of how today things scale in a way that we couldn't have imagined before. Is any other let's say, contagious illness like that wouldn't have spread if it wasn't because of our travel network today. Today, we just travel so easily anywhere. So obviously, anything that is going through the internet has even much more speed on spreading. So that's I think the worry, and that's how we can easily feel the we are doomed. And he talks not only of anything that can happen with AI in the internet, but obviously how this links to biotechnology and how you know how someone could create the next pandemic or anything like that. So it's crazy to see, but it's so important to talk about it early. And what I like of the book is that he actually does analyze. It's an optimistic book. He does analyze and describe perfectly solutions and steps to take to bring institutions together and solve these issues now. It's and you haven't finished it yet, I think.
No, I'm halfway through, but it is fascinating, and anyone that's interested in AI and its pervasiveness and its acceleration should certainly read it. It's a fascinating read. So tell me, Elena, what are you focusing on right now?
Wow. Okay. Well, I just came back, so a bit jet lag at this moment. But well, for Dow Jones, in a way, what's important is to understand how media is it's evolving. On one side, we have our media side, and then there is the data and intelligence side, and how we adapt or adopt emerging tech to grow. AI being a key part of the research, from how we use generative AI, how a media company should use or not use generative AI, where, when, how, etc. And also an interesting part is how these AIs are trained actually with a lot of journalistic data, and then what happens with that IP? How is that traced? How is that linking back to the source? How is it verified? Because we know that AI has this hallucination flaw or problem. So there is that side, and then obviously AI training, upskilling. We know that it's not about thinking that AI is going to take anyone's job, but it's more about a person that understands and can work with an AI, the person that might take your job. So what's important is to upskill your workforce and learn prompt engineering and learn to understand generative AI flows and so on. So that's a strong area.
Yeah, very much so, and an area that everyone's talking about at the moment, particularly in higher education where I work. But of course, there are so many other digital technologies that are, part of this fourth industrial revolution. And I know you've been working on a number of them, like spatial immersive tech. And so here, are you referring to the metaverse, augmented reality, 3D environments? Unpack that for me a little bit. What do you mean by immersive?
Sorry, of course, it's very easy to just dive into AI and almost forget anything else. Not this year, it's the year of AI, and the many years to come as well. But obviously in the background, we're doing a lot of research on many other subjects in parallel, because what's interesting is that every hype comes, disrupt the markets, disrupt the media, the news, and so on. And then we think it just vanishes, but it's not. Like, people are like, who's talking about the metaverse? Nobody. Or blockchain or crypto. Not so many disappointments with crypto and so on. NFTs, like, who's talking about NFTs anymore? But actually, these are not fads. What's interesting and what I really enjoy of my work and my research is trying to link back and together and join the dots between all of these technologies, because they do continue evolving in the background. And what happens is that they are not independent, they are totally linked with each other. And what we're going to see more and more is how AI, it's a critical part of all of these other previous technologies that anyone will have talked about, from Internet of Things, smart cities, wearables. So we do, of course, I cannot work on everything. So we do have a little bit of areas, different focus, and a strong focus is a spatial tech, as you mentioned. And we know that Apple just released their headset as well,
Yes.
the
Yeah. We're
Apple
all
Vision
very
Pro.
excited about that. Yeah.
Very excited, hard to see how is this going to compete with Meta. So it's a very interesting time actually in the industry of spatial technologies, and it's going to change a lot of the media industry. So I look at the spatial tech in a wide variety of areas. For example, in how media is evolving for in a 3D environment.
Yeah.
And adapting to advanced displays. So we are already working with holograms, which a hologram is more like AR, is how you have something floating in mid-air. It's almost like augmented reality. The same with the smart mirrors. So we're integrating our news and other media in a smart mirror. That's also a little bit AR, because obviously the mirror can react to the person that's in front of it. And then obviously immersive media, such as what happens in a VR headset, 360 video, and
Wow.
so on.
Wow.
And I
Fantastic.
think, I don't know, I can show you an example if we have a minute.
Yeah, that would be great. Yeah, if you've got an example,
Yeah.
bring it to life.
Okay. So we actually just launched at Tech Life a new immersive experience, and this was really interesting to work with, because we wanted, we have a space called The Field. And the field is like a networking space. You go there. It doesn't matter if you are on, if you don't have a VR headset. So you can. It's WebXR. It runs on a browser. For us, because for us, accessibility and inclusion is very, very important. We don't create experiences that are only in a VR headset. They run on web, so you can link on a desktop, on a mobile phone, on VR headset, and meet people in the same place, independent of their platform. That was a very exciting project for us. So it's called The Field. And then once you are in the field, around you, there are different portals that takes you to other experiences.
Wow.
We have it's really exciting. So every so often we create a new story that you can jump in through the field.
Yeah.
And this year we were thinking, what kind of story can we create? And we thought it definitely has to be AI focused.
Yeah.
AI and sustainability focus. Like these are core part of the discussions nowadays. So we thought, let's create an experience that tells you an immersive story that tells you how AI is supporting us to achieve our sustainability goals. And then we decided to do that experience completely with generative AI. And we have created the script. So I did all the prompt engineering to get the AI to create this incredible story and those examples of how AI is used for sustainability. We have, so we use ChatGPT, Bard, and Bing for the script. Then we clone one of our best voices with the company 11 Labs. So the audio, the voiceover that reads the script it's a clone from a human voice, and it's actually quite incredible how good it is. Then all the visuals, textures, and the entire space is also done with AI. We use Midjourney, and we also use Metashape, which is from Agisoft. And then the music and the sound effects and so on is partly real music that we use in the background, but then we also use Meta AI mixed with these music gen and audio gen to create sound effects. And it's just, it was fascinating. We worked together with a company called Active Theory, and they help us put this concept together, and it's fully AI generated.
Incredible. It's incredible. And it's visually stunning.
Yes, it's called sustainablehorizons.ai, and anyone can go in it with, as I say, VR headset, desktop or mobile. And then on site we have a portal where people can experience this without headset that
Okay.
has, as you can see in the video, and it has face tracking and body
Okay.
tracking as well, using TensorFlow. So it's very interesting. We want to understand the difference from a solo experience that you have in a VR headset, but obviously at an event, you don't want to isolate a person. So
No.
we have to think of ways that we can make people have an immersive experience and interact with it and meet others on the other side, even without a headset, feeling present and sharing that experience with one another.
Yeah, and it's incredible. I mean, there's so much going on in terms of spatial immersive experiences just now. We've obviously got the Sphere, which recently opened in Las Vegas. I saw the videos of
Oh,
you2.
incredible. Yeah.
It looks it's absolutely stunning. And then recently, actually, me and my wife went down to London to see Abba Voyage, and this is this 3D hologram on them of them on stage performing their hits, and kind of used 3D for the depth of the stage.
Yeah.
Again, it was
It's in
just
my list. It's in my
really
list. I
stunning. Oh, you need
haven't
to
been
go
yet.
and see it. It's incredible. Yeah.
Yeah.
It sounds like you've just, you've got so much on, and I just wonder, how do you find time? Have you got time to do anything else really? Have you got any personal
Yeah,
interests?
it's a good question, because obviously I still, as you have mentioned earlier, no, my career started on wearable technology
Yeah, that's right.
and all of these, and I always I enjoy very much working in multiple industries, because it really helps me understand, join the dots between how different industries impact each other. So I really enjoy having a broader role now, but I miss all the research I was doing before in biometrics, I have to say. And now finally that we have much more wearables around us, VR headset are, the VR headset industry is also expanding. I think we see many more wearables for health. People have wearables for helping them sleep and so on.
Yeah.
I, in my spare time, wanna tackle the potential scenarios that might happen with wearable technologies and biometrics if we don't think about them early on. And this is
Yeah.
about AI ethics, obviously. So I did a course in 2020 during the lockdowns. I did a course in Harvard for AI ethics, and now in my spare time, as I'm specializing in that, I'm focusing on the ethics of biometrics. And the reason is because I see wearable technologies, and in a way is why I ended up at the MIT Media Lab in Europe doing research on this. It was because I always believed that wearables were almost just a bridge between the human and the cyborg. Like, I still really believe that we are slowly gonna be doing more implants, slowly but surely. And certain technology will still be external, but there are other technologies that we will slowly be integrated into our body more for necessity or to improve our performance.
Wow.
And I think if we don't study the ethics of this early on, it's almost too late once they become implants. So yeah, as a whole, is an area that I'm very interested to look into. Yeah.
So Elena, I know we've only got 5 minutes left, so I'm just going to jump to the question about the innovation strategies and Scotland. We're doing this this event in Scotland, and Scotland recently launched its national innovation strategy, which set out a 10-year vision for Scotland to be one of the most innovative small nations in the world. And it talks about creating industry clusters like energy transition and data. It talks about recalibrating our innovation investment and support landscapes. It talks about universities in their ambition for new investment funding and develop research commercialization action plan. So, what do you think we need to do to position Scotland to harness all these opportunities that are afforded to us through innovation?
Wow. Okay. Obviously,
question.
it's very broad. Yeah, it's like, wow. It's because it's
give us maybe three things.
Yeah, I like the question, because it's very important that you think about this now. In a way, in my career, what I probably have learned is to have a flexible attitude. So I will think that you are building the leaders of tomorrow.
Yeah.
And in my career, I think what has helped me and what I believe these leaders must have is, on one side, definitely a flexible attitude and a self-learning or lifelong learning attitude. So you have to adapt to so many changes, and the speed of change is just gonna go exponential from now. So being a lifelong learning kind of person and a very self-taught person, being multidisciplinary as well. So people that have a background that is not just very, very niche on an expertise. And we know that more and more AI is going to take over those roles that are about just one expertise. So it's more important to have a wide variety of interests with one core, but at the same time, a wide variety of interests. So being multidisciplinary. Something that I have learned in my career as well is that it's important to have the language and understanding of multiple functions, so that you can communicate complex concepts between an engineer and stakeholders. Yeah. So that's very, very important. In a way, those are the three, let's say, gifts that a leader for tomorrow should have. Then the teams that surround it and the support that this leader gets is definitely, you need a team that is curious, hands-on on experimentation, also multidisciplinary, and that you don't work in silos. So it's very important to have transparency between teams and collaboration. Yeah. And then to manage risk. I think one of the difficulties that we have both experienced is what happens with funding when it's too short term. It's almost like funding doesn't understand the importance of experimentation and things like that. So actually, something that helps in my work is that a way of analyzing risk is to think, if something doesn't work, can we still let's say, share the learnings in a way that generates PR. So for example, a lot of the innovations we do, even if they don't go further, it's still very good for PR because we are innovating, sharing ideas, learning, and so on. So that's important. But yeah, as a whole, we have both suffered this problem of funding not being able to stretch with long-term thinking. And now what is growing, an area that I think it's growing and it's important to manage with risk is what I mentioned earlier, AI ethics. So more and more, any innovation will have some level of AI, automation, algorithmic, data management, and so on. So yeah, the ethics are becoming more and more important. So just to think on the human side more and more from the very beginning. And yeah, I think it's going to be up to the teams and the institutions that support those teams and the leader. It's going to be up to those three elements, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does. I mean, you touch on leadership, which I think, it's interesting that you mentioned leaders. I call it having ambidextrous mindset and leading organizations that can both explore and exploit opportunities at the same time. We need the leaders who can manage cultures of uncertainty and exploration, but then also be able to lead on effective execution. So have, good project managers and good budgetary control. And those two different models sometimes require two different cultures, because they're not always good bedfellows. But no, that's fascinating. Listen, I think we've run out of time, Elena. And as always, it has been an absolute pleasure to spend time with you again after seeing you for after so long. Always inspiring to hear about you, to hear about your work and your passions.
Thanks.
The massive tech and stuff. I'm like a child in a sweetie shop, So thank you so much for spending time with us today and sharing your thoughts and providing those jump-off points for all our own thinking.
Anytime. I'm easy to reach. I'm on LinkedIn, obviously, if anyone has more questions. And
brilliant. If people want to connect with you, how can they find you? What's the best way? I know how approachable you are, so if people want to reach out, what's the best way?
Yeah, LinkedIn, easy. Yeah, I think today, actually, that's very interesting. That social network is definitely becoming the one after all the controversies from the others. LinkedIn is good.
Brilliant. Perfect. So connect with Elena on LinkedIn if you can. I wish you all the best in your new adventures with Dow Jones and whatever technology and art takes you. So thank you ever so much, Elena, for your time, and goodbye.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hello everyone, I am Jason Low, the founder and CEO of Peace Future, a private IP investment bank that helps our MNC clients optimize the value of their R&D portfolio while fostering sustainable open innovation. IP Hatch was born in 2017, a challenge-based open innovation competition where tech giants such as Nokia, NEC, Panasonic will assign selected patent portfolios to successful winner startups to integrate into their business model.
We are delighted to support the IP Hatch program in its effort to accelerate technology startups.
IP Hatch is a unique approach to help startups with a journey to the IP world.
Panasonic has been participating in IP Hatch since 2017 to utilize Panasonic's wide range of technology through open innovation.
City of Glasgow College proudly supports IP Hatch UK. As a unique open innovation competition, IP Hatch does not only allow startups to leverage new technology, but it presents huge opportunities for investment and international growth through the well-established ecosystem, both here in the UK and in Asia.
Delighted to be engaging with IP Hatch team and City of Glasgow College to connect businesses and entrepreneurs to IP from some of the world's leading companies.
So far, we have invested into nearly 70 startups spanning all Southeast Asia countries, Hong Kong and Japan.
Without this patent, we probably couldn't offer this service at all, or if we did, we'd have to license it from a third party, which probably wouldn't even be feasible because we have a very low power, highly integrated tracking solution already. We look forward to supporting more and expanding this program to other regions.
Welcome to join IP Hatch community.
We look forward
to your application.
Totally inspired by Elena there. I guess as a scientist and a singer, I totally agree of the fusion effect of multidisciplinary sort of skills. She mentioned there about self-learning attitudes. She's a true polymath, isn't she? An exemplar of kind of having those multidisciplinary skills and applying them, the ability to communicate with non-technical colleagues, not working in silos and turning failure into opportunity. And obviously, and we've heard this a lot this morning around kind of the importance of risks and ethics. Innovation is indeed an art. And now on to our first panel session of the day, which will delve into the first 7 months of Glasgow City Region's Innovation Accelerator programme, which is set to further accelerate our thriving regional innovation economy. I was really delighted to be involved in the programme from the early days, which feel like a long time ago now, from the business case development. And I also, like Stuart, was a regional assessor on the project. So I am personally also very excited to hear how the programme has progressed. And so I'll now hand you over to invite the panel up to the stage and hand you over to Kezia Williamson, who's the head of place at Innovate UK KTN.
Give everyone a moment to get seated. All right, perfect. Thank you, Susie. Good morning, everyone. My name is Kezia Williamson. As Susie said, I'm head of place at Innovate UK KTN. For those of you who are not familiar, I'll briefly introduce who we are. So Innovate UK is the UK's innovation agency. Innovate UK KTN is the part of the system that connects and convenes across the innovation ecosystem. My role is focused on working with regional partners to co-develop and co-deliver our portfolio of place activities across the UK. Part of that activity includes events like this, which is why we're again proud partners of the Scotland Can Do Innovation Summit this year. And we're here, we're running some of today's masterclasses, we've obviously got some sessions, and if you want to learn more about the range of support that's on offer, please go and see our Innovate UK stand in the exhibition space. We'll be delighted to meet you. So in addition to running innovation showcase events around the country, Innovate UK is investing in places. The Launchpad programme supports emerging business clusters, and last month we announced a bio-based manufacturing launchpad in Scotland with funding competitions currently open. So if that sounds relevant to you, please go and check it out. Then, of course, we have the Innovation Accelerator programme, which is the focus of our panel session this morning. Over 18 months ago, the UK government published its Levelling Up white paper, which announced this £100 million Innovation Accelerator investment shared between 3 city regions to grow jobs, skills and the economy. As Stuart highlighted earlier on, Glasgow City Region was named one of these 3 city regions. And since then, Innovate UK, on behalf of UK Research and Innovation, has worked in partnership with Glasgow City Region to identify 11 ambitious local projects over 2 years that will collectively deliver against these objectives. The Innovation Accelerator programme is different to other research and development programmes. First of all, it has co-creation at its heart. The whole implementation of the programme has been a collaborative effort with Innovate UK and Glasgow City Region stakeholders working in partnership. Second of all, the projects form a cohort. It's not a case of running a competition, allocating funding, and then each project goes off on its own. So collectively, these projects are helping to boost local economies and innovation, inject momentum and tackle the productivity gap, and develop clusters and deliver inclusive growth. So I'm delighted to be joined today by our panellists representing funded projects and also the programme overall. So I'm going to invite each panellist to briefly introduce yourself and your Innovation Accelerator role before we dive deeper into this groundbreaking programme. And I'm going to come join you and have a seat, I think. So, Dean, can I start with you, please? Can you introduce yourself?
Thank you, Kezia. Delighted to be here. Good morning, everyone. So my name's Dean Cook. I'm Director of Place and Levelling Up at Innovate UK. UK Innovation Agency, as you just heard from Kezia. I'm also delighted to be the Programme Director for this Innovation Accelerator. So that's leading across the 3 city regions that were announced as pilots in the Levelling Up white paper. The programme, as Kezia said, is a part of a much wider suite of activities. If you see our plan for action that we published back in 2021, we made a series of commitments for how we will support places by making our national programmes more accessible and more cognizant of place, how we are going to do more to join up the business support landscape. You'll hear a lot of that later on, so this is just a sort of a warm-up really to come and hear from Indro Mukherjee, our CEO, at the afternoon plenary. We've got some really important things to announce. And then also how we actually support the development of place ecosystems, and this is one of the flagship programmes that we have there. So that's enough for me in introduction. I look forward to the discussion.
Thanks. Right, I'm going to skip back round to this end of the panel and ask Graham next to introduce your role, because you've got a bit of a two-hat here.
Yeah, so I'm Graham Malcolm. I'm the CEO and co-founder at M Squared. So at M Squared, we're a deep tech company that develops photonics and quantum technologies, and these are often long-term and collaborative types of programs. So in light-based technologies, we do everything from make the chips, the displays for phones, through to AR and VR, through to space programs for Earth observation. We calibrated the ESA Copernicus series of Earth observation satellites, and in quantum, we are targeting, we had analog, we've got digital, quantum's what comes next, and we're targeting a revolutionary new form of technology here in Glasgow, making next generation sensors, quantum sensors with superpowers, through to quantum computers that are going to be used as part of these programs. So all of these things are part, place, ecosystem, and projects. So I kind of got the whole gamut of those today.
Thanks. And Trish, over to you.
Morning, folks. My name is Trish Quinn, and I'm Director of Strategic Innovation at FinTech Scotland. And delighted that we are part of a partnership across Glasgow and Strathclyde to deliver something called the Financial Regulation Innovation Lab. Date for the diaries, we're officially launching on the 6th of December, but that doesn't mean we haven't been busily working away in the meantime. So the job of our lab is to bring together the very best in class across research capabilities in Glasgow and in Strathclyde, work with our community of 223 fintechs and regtechs and our strategic partners across financial services industry, of which we have 35 at the moment, to just really bring that together and deliver change quite quickly over the next couple of years. Thank you.
Brilliant, thank you. Neil.
Hi, yeah, I'm Neil McDonnell. I'm Professor in Philosophy and XR Technology at the University of Glasgow. So my time's split between being a philosophy academic part of the time and leading on a range of different XR technology projects in the university. I chair the operations board for the XR facilities we have at the university. Extraordinary facilities, available to all, I don't mind plugging. But I'm also the principal investigator on the Museums in the Metaverse project that's been funded as part of the Levelling Up Innovation Accelerators. We want to make it so people can make their own museums in the virtual and get all the benefits, I think, go along with that.
Okay, brilliant. I'm wanting to know more about this Metaverse Museum in a minute. Right. Stephen, last but not least, could you introduce yourself and your project?
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Stephen Fitzpatrick, so I'm the Director at the Digital Factory at the National Manufacturing Institute Scotland. We have 3 innovation accelerator projects running out of the National Manufacturing Institute Scotland. One is around supporting the space sector. One is around how we help companies understand in the manufacturing sector how to use data and data science. And the project that I'll talk most about today, and I'm principal investigator on, is a project called Remake Glasgow. And that's a project about how we enable companies within the region and nationally to become more circular, in particular tighter loops of the circular economy, in processes such as value retention, remanufacturing, reuse, to maximise the value within the system, both from an economic and environmental and social perspective.
Okay. Brilliant. So I'm going to get you to talk a little bit more about the projects so we can get a real flavour for, because it sounds like they're quite varied already. We've got financial regulations, we've got a metaverse-based museum, and then a circular economy and other projects, space sector. So what exactly is it that your projects, oh, sorry, and Graham, sorry, and your projects as well. Could you say a bit more about what exactly your projects are doing, particularly around boosting that innovation economy in the region? On you go, Stephen.
Okay. So yeah, I'll talk about the Remake Glasgow project, which I'm principal investigator on. So it's around about value retention processes. So how do we enable companies to take advantage of a circular economy? So currently, and I'll probably get on my soapbox about this, but currently we have about 2% of any manufactured product that goes through any value retention process, remanufacture, reuse, repurpose. And that's, you know, if we look at the waste hierarchy, that's where, you know, the most value is achieved. We take recycling, there's another 8%. So in total, we've got about 90% of a product that we manufacture globally in a linear economy. And then when we consider that almost half of global emissions come from the things that we make, you know, we're never going to get to net zero unless we find a way to become more circular. So what the Remake Glasgow project's doing is helping companies within the region to become more circular, but particularly the high value, high integrity sectors, of which we've got a rich heritage within the region. So within the project, we have a range of partners that are based within the region. So we've got Howden Compressors, for example, we've got SSER, Renewable Parts Limited, British Airways Maintenance at the airport, and they're working together with Boeing Glasgow as well as another few partners. So quite cross-sectorial. And we've got 3 strands where we're looking at technology innovation development to help these companies become circular and take product through a circular cycle. We've got a second strand where it's innovation support for SMEs within the region. We can help them with things like circular design, life cycle analysis, and introduction to things like remanufacturing. And then the third one is around the digital infrastructure. So, you know, within the EU, there's legislation now coming into place in the next 5-10 years where everything will need to have the transparency and the traceability around the products that we sell. And the only way we're going to be able to do that is through the use of data in a more connected supply chain. So the third strand is how we create that digital infrastructure, particularly for the companies within the project, but how we help that framework for the wider ecosystem as well. So.
Neil, do you want to
Super. Yeah, so I think the place we started with MIM, as we call it, Museums in the Metaverse, is the idea that more than 90% of all the objects and collections worldwide are in storage, stuck in storage, right? There's physical constraints that mean we can't show them all. Even if we could show them all, not everyone could get to where they were, and you wouldn't always be able to bring together objects that belong in the same story as one another. So museums are a really physically bounded sector, and what virtualization does is it takes the physical limitations off. Now, virtual museums, therefore, are a somewhat obvious idea. I think they're a pretty obvious idea, but not everyone has agreed with that just yet. I think once you see them done well, it's really obvious why they work, but they haven't always been done well, the ones that we've seen, and they certainly haven't generated the kind of revenue that would make it obvious to build the next one. So there are these kind of economic, kind of revenue-based difficulties in that sector. There are technical difficulties. The cultural heritage sector is not replete with technologists aiming to build, metaverse versions of their collections. There's challenges there. And there's a cultural challenge about who should get to see objects and access objects and handle objects. And we think if we can build a platform that lets people build their own museums, we can tackle a range of these issues at once. We think the potential's there. It's risky and it's difficult, which is why you need innovation funding. It's why you need government funding to de-risk things like this. But we think we've got a solution at the core of that, where as a university, a half-millennia-old institution, we can be the trustworthy body that can be entrusted with the 3D assets, with these objects, sometimes literally the crown jewels in 3D of people's collections, and do right by them, and really create a platform that would be global and would be built on the Clyde, like so many things were in the past.
Thanks. Trish?
So following that, financial regulation probably doesn't sound as exciting, but let me tell you, it is. Compliance is a massive problem for our financial services industry. There's 8 billion a year in fines. So when we think about money flowing around the system, that's huge. So Frill has convened partners from across academia, the public sector and regulators, our innovators across our Fin and RegTech community, and indeed our strategic partners across financial services to come together and particularly focus around non-competitive issues where we can solve a problem once. So very much back to your point, how do we do this once? How do we reuse? And how do we solve the problem in a way that offers standards and a single approach to what is a massive, massive problem? So our programme is split up into 4 work streams. We have a range of highly impressive principal investigators and research assistants looking ahead to 3, 5 and 10 years for how technology can impact and support financial services. We created something called the R&I Roadmap, which is our research and innovation roadmap across industry last year, which really talked to industry about their problems and what they were worried about over the next 2, 5 and 10 years. So this programme is all about bringing that together, breaking down those challenges and addressing it one by one. So as I say, Workstream 1 is all about actionable research. So how do we work with our industries to help support both our innovator community and our financial services to implement technology changes that work now? Skills, we've heard this morning several times about skills deficits. So again, working with our partners across Strathclyde and Glasgow, informed and led by industry to create sets of micro-credential courses that offer our leaders and our emerging leaders the skills they need to cope with a really fast-paced environment. Not stopping there, looking right across the undergraduate to postgrad journey to see where we can put in elements that just really help spread out technology into different disciplines. Third work stream is innovation calls. So very, very much working with our fabulous community of 223 innovators here to help support and partner with industry on how we break down some of these challenges and how we actually implement the technology. And fourth, knowledge exchange. Everything we do will have Creative Commons. It's been really important to us as a value of our programme to make sure everything we are producing, whether that's from our academic partners, from our industry or from our innovators, is made open to everybody working in this industry. So lots to do in the next couple of years, but really excited about the support, collaboration and genuine excitement about transformation in financial services.
So with all these amazing things happening, our job is a little bit to think about what comes next. I said we've had analog, we've got digital, and quantum technologies come next. Glasgow in particular has been very strong in photonics technologies, the science of light, and quantum is where we kind of use light and matter to start to build machines that are made inside atoms using quantum mechanics, not just made of atoms. And we've got some great platforms here in the formative first quantum computers in the world here in Glasgow. And our job is to think through the next phases of infrastructure for all these amazing projects. As we've heard the words exponential used a lot today, as we're driving data exponentially, we have a kind of limiting problem, and that really is computation. We can't scale digital computers the way that all these applications will want us to, largely because we won't have enough energy to drive those digital systems. So quantum computers that can, for some applications, solve computations to be able to create millions of years worth of computational power for certain problems, can hybridize with these technologies to kind of drive the technology change forward. But importantly, and for this project, we're starting to look at problems that just can't be solved with digital computers, things that have got lots of variables where we need to optimize. And if you look at society's problems like climate emergency, energy, many of these are optimization problems. And it's these optimization types of problems that quantum computers are going to be incredibly important for. So we're working with Strathclyde and Glasgow University. So the nice thing here is at the programme level, Glasgow is kind of like a coalition of the willing as a starting point. We've done lots of these things and maybe in different sectors and on the journey. And Glasgow tends to kind of reinvent itself as a city based on future technologies. So with the universities and with people that understand their computational challenges and how they can unlock things perhaps in the financial services industries or the manufacturing industries or the changing into the kind of cyber metaverse type of technologies, we're starting to do some pilot schemes here that are about that sort of change in technology node that can be part of the kind of future revolutions, the fifth generation of industrial revolution.
As you've touched a bit there on collaboration, and I'm just wondering, Stephen, you also talked about all the collaborative partners in your project. I wonder what the value or what role collaboration is playing, and sort of as an extension of that, having described all of these projects, I'm struck by how diverse they are, and I'm wondering what ties them together and what collaboration opportunities there might be between. I don't know if anybody wants to comment on that. I see Dean's got his hand up. You want to say something first?
I might,
yeah.
So I do, because this is the whole point. The whole point of the programme is to work with local leadership and to do what is right for the place. So it's a tailored approach we're taking place to place to place. And I want to compare and contrast what I see in Glasgow City region with what I see in the West Midlands. So when we're working with West Midlands leadership, they saw a real opportunity. They knew that they were really good at advanced engineering, but they could see a real opportunity to pivot that expertise into other sectors, to boost other sectors. They had a very, very clear strategy of how they wanted to take their accelerator programme. What you see here in Glasgow City region is a convergence of lots of different clusters, right? It's a cluster of clusters. I mean, what we're trying to do through this programme is to create more sort of so-called golden triangles across the UK as part of this how the programme supports levelling up. So it's not surprising that what we see is we see projects representing lots of different domains. And I think it's already been touched upon. There's this real convergent point around big data. We've heard it this morning. I suspect it will come up through the programme today. And I can already hear it in colleagues here talking about their projects, how big data and what the region has in terms of some of the underpinning capabilities are born to bear. I'd be really interested in how that feels from a domain perspective. You know, the different sort of projects we have here.
Neil, want to go first there?
Say something about that. So I think the first thing to point out now, our project really requires the cultural heritage sector a lot, right? So that's Historic Environment Scotland, National Museums of Scotland, and our own Hunterian collection in Glasgow. They're really, really important. On the other side, we've got a partner company, Edafe, and they're the kind of technology base of what's going on. So that's already a highly collaborative and complicated part of our project internally. But looking at externally, I think we haven't had this discussion yet, Trish, but with John Finch on your project, a core idea at the heart of museums in the metaverse is working out how do you safely loan a digital version of those crown jewels, right? And ultimately that problem is very close to fintech problems around NFTs and cryptocurrencies. It was that insight that actually drove the core of the MIM solution, the one that we're trying to operate. But it's also the case that a lot of people feel, well, there's a lot of suspicion, I guess, around metaverse technologies as a fad, as Elena was saying, and particularly around the ecological impact we can expect of yet more devices, right? Yet more stuff. And yet, some of the claims being made are actually about how the objects we won't need anymore, right? Be that phones or tablets, laptops, screens. If you get the right sort of tech on your face, right, you don't need those things in the world. Now, is that going to be a net gain or not? Well, then I need to know a bit more about what the life cycle of the technologies are, about what materials would be used. It looks to me like some of the problems, as you were saying about computing as well and scaling up, and how we centralise the compute resource, those things do appear across this consortium. Those are the ones that I've been thinking about when we've been having our broader meetings. So we're only 7 months in. We've only met twice, actually, as a full group. But I see potential there.
Trish, do you want to go on that?
Yes and yes. So when I think about some of the themes we're going to be pursuing, we will be doing ESG, environmental and social governance. That cuts across everything here. So whether we talk about satellite imagery and we talk about Earth intelligent observation from your side, Graham, whether we're talking about how we measure and how we are circular, there's a big theme around that. I think there's an awful lot where we are all trying to simplify the experience and do something once, which promotes reuse, singularity, and of course more responsible governance around our emissions and things like that. So for me, I can see the cut across immediately with these programs. Come on in, we're in the Graham Hills building, so locally based, so come for a visit. We also share expertise across our universities, I think. We are all leaning in on quantum, Earth intelligence, AI. So we have these fantastic teams in our universities that I think we should be working together with to challenge how they can make sure that we're doing those cross-cutting things. In terms of the wider network and cluster, we have the opportunity to talk to each other's. So fintech and financial services in Scotland is huge. The second biggest employer, the second biggest fintech industry outside London. But when I think about some of the things we're going to do with regulation, we happen to be talking about financial regulation. But in any big industry, there is regulation, and those challenges are going to be the same. So again, I think that's another area where it's cross-cutting. Sorry, I spoke far too long there.
No, that's brilliant. I'm just wondering whether you've already kind of answered my next question, which was going to be, what has this Innovation Accelerator funding or program allowed you to do that you wouldn't have otherwise been able to do? You know, if you'd just been given the money for your project from some other route and not met any of these other projects, would that have, maybe you can't answer yet, Trish, because you've not started yet, but would that have made any difference?
I think it's kind of important in the sort of things that Dean was talking about. These things can happen a little bit in one of the keynote talks earlier. These things can happen as more solo activities, but you don't get as far with them. They are, and I think that's what this is kind of doing. It's reinforcing a lot of the clusters that we heard Susie and Stuart talk about at the start, and these things kind of just build on each other, so they're kind of layering in. I think the thing that struck me at the programme level was it was kind of like a coalition of the willing. Everybody had a lot of the ideas together, and they had previous collaborations across the groups, whether it's companies or universities. Everybody's getting into this habit of collaborating much more. I'm old enough to be, when I was at school, collaborating was called cheating, whereas now it's a zone that you can't do these things alone. You need to be doing that, and I think that's the kind of self-reinforcing benefits you get out of these. And the place aspect's really important, because this city's just got such a long heritage of it. It's in our DNA, it's in our engineering excellence, it's in our exporting excellence, it's in all those things. And this programme kind of keeps that alive and builds on it. So it's more than the sum of the parts, I think.
Yeah, I'll come in as well. I would completely agree with that. So, when we tend to go into innovation projects, we're very siloed in our thoughts. We'll carry out a project, we'll have our deliverables, and we'll move on to the next one. We mentioned there that there's been 2 meetings so far. In those meetings with industry, we've had academia, with the Glasgow City region, we've had Scottish Enterprise and Innovate UK, all in the same room at the same time. And we're getting to co-create together across projects as well as within our project. And I think, we touched on it, that most of these problems are system level challenges that we need to overcome. And, we can't do it in a silo. And it's only when we work across things that we'll actually achieve more. So, I'm seeing a lot of unique benefit from that. And I'm starting to see that as more funding's coming through now. It's not just about the technology development, it's about how we bring academia, industry, the civic bodies, the local authorities, the insurers, the investors, and even standards bodies now all together to actually tackle these bigger challenges that we face.
Dean, do you want to come in at the programme level? I can see you itching to say something there.
Yeah, I mean, there's just so much I can say about this programme. It was touched on earlier on, leadership, and I think it's being touched on here. So again, I'll compare and contrast what it felt like as we came to work with the Glasgow City region compared to the West Midlands and Greater Manchester. In the West Midlands and Greater Manchester, they had some fairly mature innovation leadership bodies at that. I'm talking at a city region level that weren't present here in Glasgow City region. That's no fault of the region. It was just a reflection of the maturity of the ecosystem. So one of the first things that we did working with local leadership here was established a new sort of innovation partnership. So this is the sum of the parts story that's being told today. It's not just about individual projects. It's not even about the synergies between those projects. It's actually about the leadership capacity that's also needed to be built to really enable the city region to sort of fly hot. So I mean that's really, really important. And you've heard it once this morning, and I'm going to repeat it. All of these projects were locally selected. So as the Innovation Agency working on behalf of the UK Department for Science, Innovation and Technology, which is the department that owns the programme, we didn't select projects. We lent our mature systems to help with some of the quality assurance, but ultimately it was a local panel that decided what got funded against a strategy that we were supportive of, but ultimately was led by the city region. And this is the right way to go. And there's so much we're learning about this in terms of how we operate as a UK innovation agency and how we work with places and the right way to work with places, particularly when we're doing capacity building. So, for me, tremendous programme, and so much we learn as we look ahead at future fiscal events and where we might take programmes in the future.
Yeah, I would wonder if you want to say, maybe you can lead us on this, Dean, but how might the project evolve now? I mean, the projects are starting. What's in the next phase of the programme for you?
So it is a very discrete programme. It is a pilot. Ministers and the department looking with real interest in how the programme delivers. The evaluation we run on the programme will be vital to inform next steps on policy, which obviously sits with the Department of Science, Innovation and Technology. But, whatever happens, we're thinking about legacy already. And you'll hear more from Indro today on one of the steps we've taken to embed that legacy in terms of what we do next with the city region in partnership. So yeah, it doesn't stop here. The projects might have an end, but actually the journey we're all on together, this is just the beginning.
Yeah. Any reflections more from a project level, what might help support your project to thrive over the next year or so? Neil, you?
Yeah, so the capacity building thing is really quite important to us. I mean, our project within the stable is I think the only creative economy one. But it gives Glasgow a certain foothold in the creative economy funding that we already know is coming, right? So CoStar is a thing that was an investment that's gone out through through UKRI this past year. I think it's 74 million plus industry input. It's a 100 million programme, but trying to build capacity for real-time XR production. Along coming is going to be XR Plus. That's another funding mechanism that's coming. We've got our cultural heritage, the cultural heritage approach to infrastructure. How are we going to have a digital infrastructure for our digital cultural heritage? That's the Riches programme coming down the line. So what the Levelling Up success in Glasgow for us has given us this future we can belong to that we wouldn't have been able to otherwise. And I think that's a real step up for us in here. And I'm sure that's the same across the other sectors. We just don't know them yet. And as I came back to, with a couple of meetings in, we don't know where all of those connects are. But certainly it's the case that there's no one disciplinary silo in which all this funnels. And so we're going to need this stable, we're going to need this capacity and leadership, as you say, and big projects to be able to draw down that future funding we can see coming, but that isn't quite upon us yet. So I'm very excited about that.
Any other, Stephen?
Yeah, I mean, I'll come in. So, I mean, what the Remake Glasgow project is going to do is establish a Remake hub here for high integrity sectors. So that anchors something that's a unique capability for local economy, but also have spokes nationally. So, you know, the wider UK economy can come and actually get that innovation carried out within this Glasgow City region. I think what I've seen from the previous two meetings that we've had is that we're already talking about legacy. You know, we've mentioned that it is a discrete programme, and it is. But, you know, beyond that, we are talking about how we're going to continue this work. And I think that's really, really important. We don't let it die at the end of the next 18 months, you know, so that we create that legacy within the region.
Yeah, and I mean, that's something that we heard in the last presentation as well, Elena, talking about, you know, that sort of long-term view. So I wonder, as we're kind of nearing the end, I'm waiting for someone to yell at me that we've run out of time. If you could say a few words about what you think the next steps are, like what we need, or what you're going to be putting in place over the duration of these discrete projects that are going to then set us up for that legacy for the region.
For us in our quantum computing effort, we've got a quantum computer called Maxwell that we want to really demonstrate. So I think that innovation is a step, demonstration is a step, showcasing, and this kind of lets us, in a collective way, showcase lots of different things that come under the flag of Glasgow that really say this is an important city for this. And I think that diversity, that there's a quality and quantity on the different things that we can showcase from this. So I think things that we end up seeing in the Science Centre, there's an exhibit upstairs in Quantum. This is a great kind of way of us, in an agile way, demonstrating what the city is capable of in different ways, and then put them together in a bigger showcase that self-reinforces across all these important strands of where the future needs to go.
Yeah, Trish.
For me, it's about building the cluster. So we have seen both UK and Scottish Government recognise the strength of clusters, and that we move faster and better when we act as a cluster. I think it's breaking out of maybe our topic clusters, to Graham's point, to move together on slightly wider clusters. So I would love to see us really pushing at cluster development and moving as one and looking for investments together that are mutually reinforcing. Of course, to your point, we'll all be looking at funding and how we make this sustainable, and how this drives value back into Glasgow. And of course, those really basic things, how we're upskilling people, how we're creating jobs, how we're creating opportunities, and how we're creating companies that live, breathe, and excel here.
Yeah, so the funding on this project has allowed us to invest in infrastructure, equipment, and skills and people that'll last beyond the project. But it's also leveraged additional internal investment from the University of Glasgow into our XR lab resources. They're already some of the best in the world, but we aren't building that just for us, like my plug earlier, right? This is about a region thing. This is about Scotland. It's about Glasgow. It's about being able to provide those resources in a way that just simply weren't here before. Projects like this and ones just prior to it. And that's, as I say, that's leveraging this additional investment. I think that's going to be a significant legacy well beyond the limits of the funding for this project, but also well beyond the bounds of the university or even this particular grouping. It'll be for the region, and yeah, that's the legacy I'm looking for.
Yeah, okay, so I'll be quite quick. So for the 3 strands within the project, for strand 1, we'll be creating technology test beds. So we'll be able to take, after the project, companies through those technology test beds and help them understand the processes they need to adopt to become circular. For strand 2 in the innovation support, we'll have legacy CPD and skills development courses where we can help companies understand how they become circular, how they got on that journey to, for example, remanufacturing, how they understand the life cycle analysis of their product. And for 3, it's the digital infrastructure. We'll be able to create a framework, again, to help companies how they understand enable them for the legislation that's coming over the hill from the EU. So we need to help them understand how to go and adopt that.
And Dean, what does the future-proofed innovation ecosystem look like from where you're sitting?
So I want to restate what's just been said about the leverage of the industry investment. We can't leave these projects on a cliff edge. So the programme's been designed to build in that co-investment into the projects from the start. And one of the things that we need to do is build on that legacy to make sure that further private sector investment comes through. I mean, ultimately, you know, the public purse is always challenged, and it's important that you know it's used strategically to get that bigger investment. I mean, ultimately, it's about how do you sell Glasgow City region on a global stage to global investments. That's the aspiration that we're driving to here. And the final thing I'd like to say, because it hasn't come up yet, but this is important as we go into the sort of, I think of this as phase 2 of a 2-phase kind of programme as it's been set up. But we're also working across government to look at what policy support's needed in Glasgow City region. You've already heard some comments on regulatory framework. So colleagues in the Department of Science, Innovation and Technology, working with Scottish Government, are looking at what wraparound policy support is also required to sort of really unlock the opportunities that sit in this ecosystem. It's all very exciting. And as I said earlier on, this is just the start of a journey.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. I think we're nearing our end, aren't we, Susie? So, yeah, and I think just to touch on or pull together some of the points that you've raised there, I think like the capacity building is really coming through so strongly. The fact of anchoring things here in the region that will then have that longevity and that legacy, the test beds that you talked about, actually demonstrating things in operation, and that all-important sort of co-investment and the attracting in investment that you can do as a cohort and at a region level that you wouldn't be able to do at an individual project or topic area that you're saying. And I think coming back to my favourite topic, which was the connecting and convening piece, and how this really only works when it's collaborative. And so, and to echo the point earlier about going further together, I think that's got to be the message of this morning's session. So thank you so much for your contributions and for being here today. Thank you.
Thank you. It's so great to see how a really important devolved funding instrument like this has made such an impact on place, and we can kind of connect that to our own innovation ambitions, and we can also importantly feed into our regional and national economic missions in relation to these projects. And yeah, I'm excited to see in relation to convergence, the connect between these. We obviously have a prowess, particularly in emerging and enabling technologies in this place and across the central region. And I think as we move forward, the opportunity for technological convergence and connection to give us access to new market opportunities is really exciting. We're going to try and make up a bit of time. So we're going to try and start, but we've only got one more session before lunch in here and also down in the tower base. So if you want to grab a quick coffee, you can bring coffee back in here if you like. And at a comfort break, we're going to try and get back on track and start here at 11:45. So thanks very much.